Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well today. It's day 9 already, and you can see we've come quite a long way to day 9. Let's have a look. Now, day 9, a bit unusual. We've got a bed, and I don't know if you can see. Oh, I'm coming closer. Wrong way. 1, 2, 3 little flames. Now, the 3 is very important in today's story. And so is the bed. A long time has passed since we left Joshua and all his people going into the promised land of Jericho. And the people did exactly the same as they had done back here. They decided that they could do things on their own, and they kind of forgot about God. God sent them some judges to help them. He sent people like Deborah and Gideon and Samson. He had his hand on a lovely lady called Ruth, who with her mother-in-law had come from another land and married one of the descendants of this family called Boaz, but we'll come to him another time. And we come to a family now with a lovely lady called Hannah. And Hannah loved God, but Hannah was very, very sad. Hannah didn't have any children, and she really, really wanted a child. So one day when they were going to the temple or the tabernacle, the Bible's not quite sure, but it's kind of like our church. It's somewhere where you would go and talk to God. And she was praying, and the man who worked there, Eli, heard her praying, and she was praying, and she was so upset as she was praying. Eli wondered what was wrong and went to her and said, "What is it? You sound very, very troubled." And Hannah said, "I really, really, really want to have a baby. And if you give me a baby, if God gives me a baby, if you help me to help God give me a baby, I will give my baby back to you, and he can work with you here in your temple." And you know, God heard her crying, God heard her prayer, and she did. She had a little boy called Samuel. And when he was old enough to leave his mummy, he came and he lived in the temple. And he was given a very special job. He had to make sure that the little light that kept the candles and all the other important lights alight stayed alight. Now, it's not like our time where we've got the electricity and we can just switch on the light, or we can find a torch and we've got batteries in it and we can do it. No, this was a time before any of those things, and it had to be a little flame. So Samuel's job was very, very important. And the man, Eli, worked in the temple. He was getting quite old and not seeing very well. So Samuel did lots of other little jobs for him. And one night, Samuel settled down in his bed, checking that the light was still burning and that there was enough oil in the lamp to keep the flame. And he heard a voice, and it was saying something like, "Samuel, Samuel." Well, he immediately got up, rubbed his eyes, ran into old Eli and said, "Yes, Eli, what did you want?" And Eli rolled over and said, "Whoa, what? I didn't call you. I was asleep. Go back to sleep. Go on." So off he went back to bed. He pulled his covers up, tucked himself down, and went back to sleep. And then again, the second time, "Samuel, Samuel." That must be Eli. So off he got. He ran into Eli, and Eli said the same again. Oh dear. It wasn't Eli. Who could it be? He went back a third time. "Samuel, Samuel." Went to Eli. Eli said, "No, it's not me. It must be God calling you. Next time you hear your voice, sit up in bed and say, 'Speak, God, I'm listening.'" And that's what Samuel did. He went back into bed. Now, I wonder if he actually managed to get back to sleep. Because I think if I was knowing that God was just about to talk to me, I'd be just a little bit too excited to go back to sleep. But we don't know. So we'll pretend he did go back to sleep. And then he woke up when he heard his voice again. And he said, "Speak, God, because I'm listening." And God gave him a very, very special notice. And it was a bit of a sad notice because it was about Eli's sons who were not very good people. And in the morning, Samuel had a very difficult job. He had to tell Eli what God's message had been. But that was the very first message that Samuel had from God. And Samuel was a very, very important man from here onwards. He grew up to be one of God's very special prophets. He heard from God and he was able to tell the people what God was saying. And tomorrow we're going to find out how he was used in the next few days. But I love the story of Samuel because Samuel wasn't very old. Samuel was a very young boy when he heard God. And I've always grown up thinking that's a really good example, because it doesn't matter how old we are, whether we are only 2 or 3 or whether we're 92 or 3, God still wants to speak to us. Now it's early in the morning today already, and I'm going to make sure that I'm listening so that when God calls me and tells me something, I'm going to say, speak to me, God, because I'm listening. I hope you have fun today listening to God and hearing what he wants you to do and where he wants you to go. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.